I spent years obsessed with a single number. I tracked every penny, ran the calculations, and finally at 51, I did it. I retired. But here's the truth no one tells you. Financial freedom is only half the equation. You can have the perfect bank account, but if you don't have the health to enjoy it, you've just brought a front row seat to the life that you're too exhausted to live. I'm Salvador, and I left a toxic work environment at the age of 51 in order to retire early. First of all, I want to talk to you about what I call the toxicity tax. Back in 2021, I was free on paper, but I was a wreck in person. I was stress eating, I wasn't sleeping, and I'd go weeks without working out because of the toxic situation that just drained my battery. I'd wake up moving really slow, dreading the next step of my routine because ultimately I didn't really even want to go to work at that point. I just was trying to survive the day. My knees throbbed on the golf course. I had skin problems and consistently had heartburn, all because of the stress of not knowing what was going to happen next and what I had to deal with when I got into the office. And the funny part about it is that I was successful, but I was failing the most important audit of my own life, my own survival. But let's talk about the wake up call. And my doctor, he gave it to me straight. He told me that I was obese and on the verge of hitting 300 pounds, and my labs were screaming pre diabetic. That hit me in the gut because my dad died from complications of diabetes. I've talked about that in other episodes. I won't go through that here. But ultimately, anybody that has diabetes, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, you know the medical impacts of that are real. I knew exactly where that road ended for me. And I realized all the money in the world, that wouldn't matter if I followed him down it. Then I had to audit my energy. And I really had to take some time to think about my energy. So I started a new kind of audit program. I began looking at the people in my life and asking three simple questions. Do I feel good around them? I asked myself why, and what's the energy I feel from their actions? And I had to walk away from people I felt obligated to keep around. And the people from my past that resurfaced, I had to look at them and I had to trust myself that my prior decision to create space was founded and it was based on real stuff because there are several individuals, some I was fairly close to, that I was cool with, stopped hanging with, and then started hanging out with again because they came back. And I figured, well, maybe it was just me being hard on them. And I got to this point where I stopped feeling lucky to have people around me. And I started to set requirements for my energy and the things that I allow in my life. And I had to really set up those boundaries because had I not set up those boundaries, and I think a lot of us find ourselves in that place that we have homies or we have people in our lives that we spend time with because we feel like we have to. And I had a bunch of people like that because I'm a loyal person. And one of the things that I value above most other things is loyalty. But you start to realize that there are people in your life that keep you around because they might need you. And I had one buddy of mine, and he had a whole new group of friends, but when he needed money, who'd he call? He called me. When he couldn't close on his house because he needed some money, who'd he call? He called me. But when I go to his house and he has other people there, he forgets, oh yeah, Salvador's coming by. I should leave the door unlocked. It's just stuff like that that you start to see happen more and more because my generosity was being taken advantage of. And you start to realize that when people just start to keep you around because it might be good to know you, those aren't really friends. And I had a lot of people like that. And I had a lot of people that they were good at one season in my life, but I'm in a whole new season. Life is good. I'm moving forward. And they're just not in the same place. They're still doing the same shuck and jive that they were doing back in the day. And I'm no longer shuck and jive. And today's the day, not back in the day. The next thing I started to really recognize was the payoff of my life without an alarm. Today, the math is different. I just weighed in a couple of days ago, and I only weighed 235 pounds. For the first time in my adult life that I can remember, my cholesterol is in the normal range, and my blood sugars are almost in normal range. And these are the lowest that I've had since I was probably 22 years old. In fact, I thought that it was something biological with me, but it wasn't something biological with me. It was the impact of all those years of stress, all of that bullshit that I had to deal with, and everything that just created my need to eat, my need to drink, my need to do all kinds of different stuff. And ultimately, the heartburn's gone, and I finally sleep soundly through the night. I hadn't slept soundly in probably 15 years because of the stress, because of the stuff that I dealt with. And these are all of the things that I was able to regain when I started to realize that the math has changed and I don't have to do that. And so by finding financial independence and carving a life that allows me to do the things that I want to do on my own terms and living my life on my own terms without the stress, it was great. And my biggest change is I don't use an alarm clock. I went from moving slow in the morning and dreading the day to really feeling energized to get started. I have the capacity to grow, to learn, and to help others without feeling exhausted. I'm finally in full control. I was talking to my wife this morning, and we were talking about the evenings before we go to bed. And when I go to bed, I am no longer exhausted and falling out going to bed. I'm just tired because I woke up in the morning, did my thing, and I'm tired. But I'm not exhausted, and I have the capacity to be the best person that I could be for the people that are fortunate enough to be part of my cipher. So here's the challenge for you. If you're grinding for a number right now, keep it going. You got to get to where you got to get to. But don't wait for the gold watch to start investing in the person who's going to wear it. The time is now. Don't wait until you retire to try to be the best version of you. Be the best version of you right now. Financial freedom is great, but physical and mental peace is really the wealth that you get. I was in a conversation with my best friend's sister one day, and she said, Salvador, you're pretty well off. And I told her, I'm not well off. I just happened to be in a situation where I was able to find some financial independence and change my circumstance. And my circumstance is such that I do what I want to do when I want to do it. And that's cool. And she looked at me and she said, the fact that you could do what you want to do with your time means that you're well off. So I guess I'm well off, folks. And it's because of my physical and my mental peace. I think there's three parts to peace. I think there's the physical piece, there's the emotional piece, and then there's the mental health piece. And if you can take steps today to address all of those things, I think you're going to find yourself in a very, very good spot. Now, I have a question for you. What's one requirement you're setting for your peace today? Put that down in the comments because it's always interesting to hear what people have to say in the comments about some of these different things. Because in my chats with Sabado, which I recommend everybody take a part in, and you could sign up for them on www.asksabado.com, which is my website. Sign up for our monthly newsletter and sign up for the chats with Sabado. But you start to realize that what most people think about finding financial independence and being able to retire a little earlier is different than what it actually is. Most people think it's the math. It's not the math. It's the emotional components, which is why we spend the majority of the time dealing with the emotional components. And unfortunately, those of us in Gen X, we were never taught how to deal with the emotional components because we were always out there grinding. I'm not saying that you stop grinding, but you have to understand that there's a balance. And if you can find that balance, you're going to be better off. One of the other things I want to share with you before we get going is either in late April or early May, I'm going to be having a meet and greet session in Northern California. Most likely somewhere in Roseville, California, where it's going to be an opportunity for us, those of you that are local or those of you that may want to come up and meet your main man Sabado and just have a conversation, ask some questions, or just have some fellowship and conversation, to come meet me, have a conversation, spend a little bit of time, get your questions answered, and maybe get a little bit of perspective or whatever it is that we get. But I'm going to be sending out information on that. You'll find that in the community page, and I'll have a post up there. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a Facebook group. I have a Facebook page. I don't use Facebook that much. To full transparency, I don't particularly like Facebook that much because I think it's changed over the years and is filled with a bunch of misinformation. And somebody like me who's focused and anchored in fact struggles with that. But I do think it's a good place to build community in a different way because I start to recognize that our ability to interact back and forth is a lot of times limited based on the fact that I give you videos, you interact by putting it in the comments, and if I respond in detail, I do, but with the volume of comments, it's hard to do. I read every comment. That's why you always have a heart next to them, at least the initial comment. Sometimes I don't get to the replies. But this way, we'll have the opportunity to message each other. We'll have the opportunity to post maybe some more personal stuff about each other. We'll be able to have conversations and have community types of conversations. So more to come. As you all know, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And if I say I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. But look out for the meetup coming in late April, early to mid-May, and look out for the Facebook group. I will put a link to that in the community post, and I'll try to put a link to that in the description so it's easy to find. And then you can just sign up and we'll all be there and we'll do what it is we need to do. And I think the name of the group is just going to be Sabado's Retirement Gang or something like that, because at the end of the day, I've come to realize that this channel isn't a bunch of okey doke. It's not a bunch of shuck and jive. It's people that are serious about the circumstance. I had a chat with Sabado today with a very nice person who has done all of the work. But as we all know, when you start getting to crunch time, the details matter, and started talking about working out some of those details. A lot of us here are there. A lot of us here are serious. I'm fortunate enough not to have a bunch of trolls and a bunch of people dissuading others from their plans, but it's just different perspectives. And one of the beauties of growing up in Gen X is we grew up and we had a whole bunch of people around us and we were all able to figure out a way to work together and deal with things together. And I think our community on Facebook will be the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it short here, but I do want to say to you, as always, it's never my expectation that everybody retire early, but it is my expectation that you live your best life. So on that note, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.